The galaxy was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that brought peace. It was the silence of an ending. Entire civilizations had vanished in the blink of a cosmic eye, leaving only echoes in space and memories etched into abandoned worlds. Among the stars, Commander Elias Kane floated alone, the last witness to the fall of an advanced civilization that once considered themselves unbeatable. The Illyrians had been everywhere. For millennia, they had built cities that glowed with a light so bright it could be seen from orbit, created ships faster than light, and harnessed energy from stars themselves. They prided themselves on intelligence, technology, and order. They thought survival was guaranteed, that the universe itself bowed to their mastery. They were wrong. Elias Kane did not belong to their species. Humans had once been considered weak, fragile, unremarkable. Among the Illyrians' interstellar councils, humans were often laughed at. A species that struggles to survive a single planetary disaster, they had said, cannot hope to travel among the stars with us. But now, as he drifted through the emptiness of space, Elias realized something they had never understood. Being underestimated could be the greatest advantage of all. The ship shook violently, alarms ringing through its hull. Elias's hand flew to the control panel, pressing switches instinctively. The vessel had been damaged during the final evacuation of the Illyrian homeworld. Most ships had already been destroyed by the cosmic storm that had swept across their galaxy like a predator hunting its prey. The storm had no mercy, no warning, no logic, just destruction. Elias had been lucky, or perhaps human stubbornness had saved him. Come on, he muttered, fingers flying over the controls. The ship's shields flickered to life for a moment, then stabilized. He breathed a short sigh of relief. The sensors were still active, showing empty space all around him. Stars stretched endlessly, distant and cold. He remembered the day the Illyrians had left. It had been chaos. Ships of every design, glowing with powerful engines, had lifted from the planet's surface. But not everyone had made it. Many had been too slow, too cautious, or too arrogant to survive. The Illyrians believed their technology would save them. It had not. And then there was him. Elias. A human among giants. A species that had once been overlooked, ignored, and dismissed. He had boarded the last ship in the chaos, fighting through corridors of panicked Illyrians. He had been shoved aside, considered a liability, but he had survived. Somehow, he always seemed to find a way. The ship drifted silently for hours. Elias monitored the systems, checking for damage, listening for any sign of life. The communication channels were dead. All around him, the galaxy seemed empty, as if it had been erased of every familiar sound and presence. The stars themselves felt colder, more distant. Yet he refused to panic. Panic was human weakness, but survival required calm, focus, and action. He moved through the ship, checking the engines and life support. Every machine, every panel, every line of code was familiar enough to him to understand, but alien enough to keep him cautious. The Illyrians' technology was advanced, but it was not perfect. Every design had flaws, and humans had a strange talent for finding them. Hours passed, days passed, time lost meaning. The stars outside the viewport remained indifferent, the galaxy stretching endlessly. And then, faintly, a signal appeared on the ship's sensors. It was weak, irregular, almost imperceptible. Elias leaned closer, adjusting the frequency. His heart pounded. He had expected nothing but silence, yet here it was a sign that he might not be completely alone. The signal was old, a remnant of a civilization that had abandoned the station long before the cosmic storm reached it. Elias traced its origin to a derelict space station orbiting a lifeless planet. The station was massive, floating silently in the void, dark except for the faint pulses of the signal. Elias knew that approaching it was risky. The station could be damaged, unstable, or even harbor unknown dangers. But he also knew that ignoring it would be a mistake. Humans had always survived by taking risks when others hesitated. He adjusted the ship's course, carefully navigating toward the station. The approach was slow. Every meter brought new concerns. The station was enormous, yet it appeared abandoned. Doors hung open, corridors twisted in strange patterns, lights flickered in a rhythm that felt almost alive. The signal grew stronger, guiding him deeper into the station's heart. When he docked, the airlock hissed, and Elias stepped out. The corridors were silent, cold, and echoing. Machines, once active, now stood dormant, waiting for someone who could understand them. Elias touched the panels, feeling their energy, their potential. The Illyrians had left these things behind, confident that no human could ever use them. Yet here he was, a human, alone, alive. He moved carefully, exploring the station, documenting everything he found. Holographic maps, star charts, energy conduits, weapon systems, each was a reminder of the civilization that had considered itself invincible. And yet, all of it was silent, powerless. Without someone to activate it, Elias realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most intelligent in the galaxy, but humans had something others underestimated: resilience, creativity, and unpredictability. Where machines and calculations failed, humans improvised. Where logic alone was insufficient, intuition and courage could prevail. He had survived chaos when others had not. And now, the galaxy had a silent witness to the fall of the Illyrians, a human. As he explored further, the signal led him to a central chamber. There, at the heart of the station, lay a strange console, ancient and dormant. Symbols glowed faintly beneath layers of dust. Elias studied them, tracing patterns with his fingers, trying combinations and sequences. The machines had been designed to respond to intelligence, but they had not accounted for the creativity of someone who thought differently. He pressed a sequence, then another, until the console hummed to life. Lights flickered on across the station. Doors opened, energy flowed. The station stirred, recognizing the human as its new operator. Elias had awakened it not through raw power, but through ingenuity and persistence. And then he heard it. A sound that made the hairs on his arms rise. The station was not alone. Something else had responded to his activation. He could not see it, but the sensors indicated movement. Patterns of energy that did not belong to any human or Illyrian. A presence. Something massive, intelligent, and curious. Elias took a deep breath. This was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers beyond comprehension. He had survived the fall of a civilization. But now, something new was coming. Something he could not yet predict. Yet one thought comforted him. Humans had survived before, in every harsh environment, against every impossible odds, and they could survive again. As he prepared to face the unknown, Elias Kane stood tall. Alone in a galaxy that had forgotten his kind, he was not helpless. He was the last witness, yes, but also the first spark of something new. A human among the ruins of the stars, ready to prove that survival was not just about strength, speed, or intelligence. It was about ingenuity, courage, and heart. And in the emptiness of space, a human survived where no one else had. The station hummed around Elias, its lights casting long shadows along the metal walls. Panels flickered and whirred as dormant systems came to life, responding to the human who had awakened them. To anyone else, it would have seemed impossible. The Illyrians had built this station for themselves, leaving behind what they considered useless. But now, it was alive under the touch of one human. Elias moved carefully, studying the central console. The signals he had detected were stronger now, spreading through the station's sensors. He could sense movement, but it was subtle, almost intelligent. Whatever, or whoever was out there, had been waiting. He checked the station's interior scans. Most corridors were empty, but energy readings suggested something was watching, analyzing, perhaps even learning from him. Elias swallowed hard. He had survived disaster before, but this was different. The Illyrians were gone, the stars around him silent, and something new was approaching. He turned back to the console. There were systems he didn't fully understand, machines designed to respond only to the Illyrians' advanced commands. Yet, Elias didn't panic. Humans were not known for raw intelligence compared to the Illyrians. But they had something else. Adaptability. Where others saw obstacles, he saw possibilities. He began experimenting. The first attempt failed. Alarms rang briefly, and doors slammed shut across the station. Elias jumped back, heart racing, but quickly realized the mistake. The Illyrians had designed these systems to reject anything too far outside their logic. But he tried again, slower this time, combining patterns in ways the original designers had not predicted. Lights stabilized, doors unlocked, and a corridor opened before him. He moved down the corridor, his eyes scanning every surface. The walls were covered with strange symbols, glowing faintly. The Illyrians had left behind more than technology. They had left puzzles, challenges, and instructions hidden in ways only an inventive mind could unlock. Elias smiled slightly. This was exactly the kind of challenge humans were made for. As he advanced deeper, he discovered a control room filled with floating holographic panels. Each panel displayed parts of the galaxy, stars, planets, and unknown anomalies. Elias realized these were navigation and monitoring systems for the Illyrians' fleets. He reached out, touching one of the panels. The hologram responded, shifting and highlighting paths he had never seen before. Suddenly, one of the sensors flared red. Motion. The subtle presence he had felt earlier was closer. Elias froze. The readings suggested a life form unlike any species he had encountered. It was intelligent, yes, but it did not move like a creature. It shifted energy patterns, almost blending into the station itself. Elias's mind raced. Most beings would run, but humans had survived by doing the unexpected. He stepped forward, careful not to provoke it. Slowly, he spoke aloud, hoping that some form of communication might work. "Hello? I don't mean any harm." There was no reply, only a faint ripple in the air. Elias took a deep breath. This station was ancient, built for the Illyrians' use, but now it was his. He would survive here, not by brute force, but by understanding and adapting. Hours passed as he explored more of the station. He found dormant power cores, small drones, and systems capable of repairing damage. To the Illyrians, these were tools meant only for their kind. To Elias, they were instruments of survival. With careful adjustments, he powered the drones, watched them float through the station, and learned how to manipulate the energy grids. The alien presence continued to follow, silent but perceptive. Elias noticed patterns. When he activated a console, the readings shifted. When he moved through corridors, it mirrored his energy signatures. It was not attacking, only observing. That gave him an idea. Humans had a talent for using attention and misdirection. He set up small drones as decoys, sending them through side corridors while he approached the central hub. The alien energy shifted to investigate the drones, leaving him free to explore deeper areas. Elias smiled. It was working. The creature or intelligence could adapt, but so could he. In the main chamber, he discovered the station's database. Holographic files revealed the Illyrians' last days, the chaos of the cosmic storm, the evacuation, and their ultimate failure. Every line of data emphasized their arrogance. They had believed their knowledge and technology were enough to survive anything. They had been wrong. Elias realized something important. The Illyrians' tools were powerful, but they lacked flexibility. Machines alone could not solve every problem. Humans, however, could think differently, improvise, and find solutions where others saw only dead ends. That realization filled him with quiet determination. The next challenge came quickly. One of the station's outer sensors detected a small ship approaching. It was damaged, drifting without control. Elias knew immediately it could be dangerous. The unknown presence outside could mean a predator or a scavenger. Yet, he saw opportunity. Humans had survived countless threats by turning danger into advantage. He activated the station's defense drones. but in a way the Illyrians had never intended. Instead of attacking, he programmed them to herd the ship into a secure docking bay. Using simple logic combined with improvisation, he guided the drifting vessel safely inside. The unknown presence outside shifted slightly, as if curious. Inside the ship, Elias found a data core. Unlike Illyrian technology, it was primitive, simple, rugged, and designed for survival rather than elegance. He connected it to the station's systems, analyzing its contents. It contained records of other species, messages from distant galaxies, and hints of civilizations that had vanished long before the Illyrians. Elias began to see the bigger picture. The universe was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of unknown threats. The cosmic storm that had destroyed the Illyrians was not unique. Other forces, far more dangerous, could exist. Yet humans had survived on Earth for millennia, against every natural disaster and every predator. Survival was in their nature. Days turned into weeks. Elias learned to operate the station more efficiently. He repaired broken systems, activated environmental controls, and even modified drones to explore nearby planets. The alien presence remained, always observing but not attacking. Elias grew confident, realizing that intelligence, creativity, and adaptability could be more powerful than sheer strength or advanced technology. One day, while exploring a long-abandoned research wing, he found something extraordinary. A small chamber contained a machine unlike any he had seen. It was dormant, dark, and silent, yet the energy readings were massive. The Illyrians had clearly intended it for something important, perhaps a weapon, perhaps a tool, but without their commands, it was useless. Elias studied it carefully. He tested different inputs, trying to understand its purpose. He failed repeatedly, yet each failure brought new insight. Humans had a talent for learning from mistakes, for experimenting in ways the Illyrians never considered. Slowly, he began to make progress. The machine hummed, responded, and finally activated, revealing a hidden network of power conduits across the station. The unknown presence reacted instantly. Energy shifted violently, sensors flaring, but it did not attack. Elias realized it was not a mindless creature. It was intelligent, analyzing, learning, and adapting just like him. This was no ordinary adversary. This was a test, and humans were rising to meet it. By the end of the second week, Elias had transformed the station. Drones patrolled corridors, energy flowed through the systems, and the alien presence had learned to respect his ingenuity. For the first time since the fall of the Illyrians, the station was not abandoned. It had a master, and that master was human. But deep inside, Elias knew this was only the beginning. The universe was full of mysteries, threats, and opportunities. The Illyrians had fallen because they underestimated the unknown. Elias would survive because he would never underestimate it. As he gazed out at the stars from the central chamber, he felt a quiet thrill. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But he was alive. He had tools, knowledge, and ingenuity. He had human resilience, and it was enough for now. Outside the station, distant stars twinkled, indifferent to the struggles within. Yet, Elias Kane, the last human in a galaxy that had lost everything, was ready. He had turned the abandoned station into a fortress, a hub, and a laboratory. He had learned, adapted, and overcome. And somewhere out there, the unknown presence continued to watch, waiting for the next move. The galaxy had thought humans were fragile, weak, and insignificant. It had been a mistake. Humans survived when others failed. Humans adapted when others froze. Humans persevered when others gave up. And Elias Kane, standing alone in a station that hummed with life under his command, would soon prove that humanity's greatest strength was not technology, speed, or intellect, but something far older, far simpler, and far more powerful: the human spirit. The stars stretched endlessly before him, full of danger, wonder, and opportunity. Elias knew one thing for certain: survival was only the beginning. Humans could thrive, even here, where all others had fallen, and when the galaxy realized it, everything would change. Elias Kane stood in the control chamber of the station. Eyes fixed on the stars beyond the reinforced viewport, the galaxy stretched endlessly, full of beauty and danger. He had survived the fall of the Illyrians, adapted to their abandoned technology, and even learned to coexist with the mysterious presence that had observed him for weeks. Yet now, a new threat was approaching, something far larger, far more dangerous than he had ever encountered. The sensors blared a warning. A massive ship, unlike anything Elias had seen, moved silently through the void. Its surface pulsed with an energy signature that dwarfed the station's power systems. It was not Illyrian, not human, and not like any of the smaller species he had seen on old records. This was a predator, a hunter, and it had detected him. Elias swallowed hard. Humans had survived against predators on Earth by thinking faster, adapting quickly, and using tools in ways no other species could. That instinct would serve him now. He began preparations. The station had defenses, but nothing that could match a ship of this size. Missile turrets, energy grids, automated drones. They could slow it, but they could not stop it. Elias needed a strategy beyond technology. He needed ingenuity. The alien ship approached, scanning the station with pulses of energy that disrupted minor systems. Elias observed, noting patterns in its movement. It was calculating, precise, and confident. It expected to find an easy target, a helpless human, alone and trapped. It had no idea that humans thrived on unpredictability. Elias activated the station's drones, but in a new way. Instead of a direct attack, he sent them on paths that created false energy signatures. Mimicking the movement of a fleet, the alien paused, scanning, confused. It was not used to being tricked. Elias smiled. Humans could improvise, and improvisation was something no machine or calculation could fully predict. He moved through the station, activating environmental controls. Lights flickered, doors sealed, and corridors shifted. He created traps and obstacles that guided the alien's sensors into loops, wasting time and energy. The massive ship began to falter. Unsure of its target's exact location, Elias realized the alien was intelligent, not merely a predator but a strategist. It was learning from his actions, predicting his moves, and adapting. But humans had something else, creativity born of instinct. Elias began combining tools in ways no Illyrian had imagined. Drones were used to trigger energy pulses, which fed into the station's old defense grids, creating a web of interference that the alien could not penetrate. He knew he could not fight it directly. Strength alone would not win this battle. The alien was too powerful. Instead, he needed to guide it, confuse it, and use its confidence against it. Elias drew upon every lesson from survival on Earth. Traps, misdirection, improvisation. He became both hunter and strategist, turning the station itself into an extension of his mind. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of machinery and the occasional alarm. Elias moved swiftly, checking every system, adjusting energy flows, and monitoring the alien's reactions. Slowly, it became apparent that the alien was frustrated. Its calculations were failing. Its attacks were misdirected. Elias had found a way to make the unstoppable pause. He used the pause to study the alien further. Sensors revealed patterns in its energy emissions, a rhythm to its movement. Elias recognized a vulnerability. Its over-reliance on precise predictions. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic, and capable of thinking outside rigid patterns. That was his advantage. He set a final trap. Using drones and energy conduits, he created a channel of controlled energy pulses. The alien, confident in its attack, followed the channel, interpreting it as the path to the station's core. But it was a deception. The pulses guided the ship into a carefully mapped zone, where the station's systems could redirect energy toward its hull. The alien surged forward, and Elias triggered the trap. Energy arcs flashed across the station's defenses, striking the alien's shields in rapid succession. The ship recoiled, its sensors overloaded by the unexpected attack pattern. Elias's heart pounded. He had done what no one had thought possible. He had outsmarted a predator that could have destroyed him instantly. But the battle was not over. The alien adapted quickly, redirecting its energy and adjusting its approach. Elias knew he could not rely on a single plan. Humans survived by improvising. By thinking multiple steps ahead, he began a series of small maneuvers, drones feigning attacks, corridors changing positions, energy pulses creating false targets. Each move forced the alien to expend energy and recalculate. Hours turned into a tense standoff. Elias barely rested, eating rations in brief moments between adjustments. The alien was powerful, but it was learning slowly, and each learning moment gave Elias more time to anticipate its moves. Humans thrived in chaos. Elias embraced it. Finally, he saw an opening. The alien's systems were overextended, trying to adapt to too many variables at once. Elias activated the station's final defense, a network of energy grids focused at precise points, designed not to destroy but to disable. The alien surged toward the station, and in a flash of light, its energy systems overloaded. Sparks flew across its hull, and it recoiled, retreating into the darkness of space. Elias exhaled, his body shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline. He had survived. The predator had been repelled, not by brute force, but by ingenuity, adaptability, and human creativity. The station, once abandoned, now thrummed with life and victory. Humans had faced the impossible and won. In the aftermath, Elias explored the alien ship from a safe distance using drones. He discovered its complexity, its intelligence, and its potential. It was not a mindless predator. It had strategy, foresight, and adaptability. Yet, even with all its advantages, it had underestimated one thing: a human mind, unbound by expectation. Elias realized something profound. The galaxy had considered humans weak, fragile, and insignificant. Yet here he was, standing where entire civilizations had failed. Humans had survived, not because of advanced technology, speed, or strength, but because they could adapt, improvise, and endure. Days passed as Elias repaired the station fully, integrating the alien ship's technology into his systems. The mysterious presence that had observed him all along remained, but now it seemed to recognize him as something more than a human. Perhaps it had learned that survival, cunning, and resilience were not species-specific traits, they were human traits. He activated communication arrays, sending signals across the galaxy. He did not know who or what might respond. Most species had retreated, vanished, or ignored the human presence. But Elias had a message, not just for survivors, but for the universe itself. Humans were not weak. Humans could survive anything. Humans could thrive. As he monitored the stars, Elias reflected on the journey. He had been alone, underestimated, and considered fragile. Yet every step, every decision, every improvised solution had proven the opposite. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and clever. Where machines and advanced intelligence had failed, human intuition had succeeded. He turned to the control console, scanning nearby galaxies. Unknown worlds, uncharted systems, and potential dangers lay ahead. Elias knew the universe was far from safe, and new challenges awaited. But for the first time, he felt confident, not because he had weapons, or allies, or even Illyrian knowledge, but because he had something no machine or alien could replicate: a human mind, capable of adapting, surviving, and thriving in the face of the impossible. The alien presence lingered, a silent observer at the edge of the station's sensors. Elias acknowledged it with a nod. Perhaps it would return, Perhaps other threats would follow, but one thing was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That mistake would not be repeated. Elias Kane, the last human among the ruins of civilizations, had turned an abandoned station into a fortress, a laboratory, and a hub of survival. He had faced a predator far beyond the capabilities of any Illyrian fleet, and he had triumphed. The universe had seen what humans could do, and now it could not forget. The stars stretched endlessly, full of danger and wonder. But Elias, standing tall in the heart of the station, understood something essential. Survival was not enough. Humans could endure, humans could innovate, humans could become the standard against which others measured themselves, and as he prepared to chart a course into uncharted space, Elias Kane knew that humanity's story was only beginning. The galaxy had assumed he was helpless. They had been wrong. Humans were not the weakest species. Humans were the last, the unpredictable, and perhaps the strongest of all. And Elias, the last witness, the lone human, was ready to prove it.